Mother's Day is just around the corner, and on today's episode, we get to hear from Amy and Tim about their beautiful journey to parenthood. After many hurdles, including miscarriage and unsuccessful IVF, they decided that egg donation would be how they would grow their family. Their story was not simple and had many ups and downs, but throughout, they continued to lean on each other, their support system, and persevered and are now the proud parents of sweet little Esther. This was such a beautiful discussion, and I am so grateful that Amy and Tim continue to share their story of hope. So happy almost Mother's Day to Amy and to all you amazing mamas to be, mamas that will be, and mamas that are. However, you have the title of mama, it is a joy and privilege to celebrate you. So please enjoy Amy and Tim. Me, you, and who? Who knew it would take more than two people to have a baby? In a world where infertility is no longer a taboo topic, this podcast will take you through all the different aspects of surrogacy and egg donation through the lens of many who walk this journey in different ways. My name is Whitney Hall, and I am a two-time surrogate, now turned surrogacy coordinator for Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions, the very agency I used when I chose to carry for two amazing families. With this podcast, it is our goal to help guide and support you as you learn about what it takes to grow a family in an alternative way, as well as hear inspiring and beautiful stories of how this path has changed lives forever. We can't wait for you to hear about just one more way happy families are created every day. Yay! Hi, Amy. How are you?
Good.
Good. Oh my gosh. I am so glad you were here. And I know Tim is going to be joining us in just a little bit, but thank you so much for being a part of this and sharing your story. I'm just so excited.
I'm excited to share our story. You like to share it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. So you and Tim are parents via egg donation. What I know for many, it's a long journey before we even get to here. What led you to growing your family in this way?
Well, Tim and I met later in life, which is, most of, I think a lot of egg donor stories, it starts that way where couples meet later in life. Um, I think we were dating for like maybe 6 months and we decided, we both were very serious about wanting to start a family. So we're like, okay, we'll pull the birth control, kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
And I think maybe 6 months later-ish, I got pregnant. That resulted in a miscarriage. And we had already reached out to an infertility clinic before we found out I was pregnant because we knew that it was going to be an issue and we just wanted to get that ball rolling. And then we found out we were pregnant. So we were like, yay, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did this on our own.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't have to do IVF and all this stuff. And that ended in a miscarriage. And so we moved forward with consulting with the infertility clinic and going forward with that. And then we ultimately did 3 rounds of IVF. None of them, they all produced non-viable embryos. And so we moved forward with egg donation.
Wow. So, I mean, again, just whole journeys just on both of y'all before you even get to each other. And then it's like, okay, now we want to grow our family. And then you have just all of those roller coasters and emotions. So as you're going through all of that, you make it sound so simple. How did you know, just as you're navigating that, how did you know that you were ready to move forward in this way instead of that one more round of IVF for, just all of the things that you can do?
I think I was ready before my husband was ready. After the second round of IVF, I started looking for donors. And
oh my gosh, look at you.
And I found the donor that I liked. I found our donor. I watched her video and I crawled into bed one day and I was like, Tim, I found our donor. And he's like, but wait a minute, I thought we were going to do another round. I'm like, well, yeah. I kind of knew it wasn't going to work. And I was like, well, yeah. But if we need to go the egg donor route, I've got her. I feel good about this because I just needed it planned out. I needed to know that it was going to be okay. And so I actually reached out to Egg Donor Solutions and said, hey, is this girl available? Is she willing to travel? And they reached out to her and she said, yes. I said, but my husband really wants to try another round of IVF. And if that doesn't work, we're going to move forward. And so she said, okay, well, be in touch. And so then I reached out after the third round. Felt like that day I called back and I was like, oh my gosh, is she still available? And the coordinator was like, well, someone actually just reached out about her. And I was like, I instantly was like panic mode, wanted to cry. And she goes, but they didn't put a hold on her. And I was like, put a hold on her, put a hold on her. So we snatched her and we got her.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you're like, wow, so many things to unpack here because like, it seems like you were just like, we're just ready to grow our family. And you weren't even like, I mean, how did you even navigate? Like, how did you even know to like go to an egg donor website? Like, how did you even navigate all of that?
Well, basically through the infertility clinic. Tim and I kind of knew in the very back of our heads, especially after the first round of IVF didn't work, that maybe we might have to move forward with an egg donor. And of course, like many women, I was not ready. I didn't want to do that yet. But then after the second round, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. I'm, very realistic. We're both nurses, so we both kind of know how things roll. Like, so after the second round, I was pretty like, okay, if I want to be a mother, I need to accept this. So I did my mourning. I'm not going to have a child with my own eggs, and then just moved on. I was like, I want to be a mom, and this is how it's going to happen, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was excited, and I think it's a hard thing to navigate, to be mourning and be excited at the same time. But I think it also kind of balances, it kind of helps your mourning process because it wasn't the end. It was like a beginning.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
So like it wasn't a complete failure that I couldn't have kids with my own eggs. It was just a step. And the next step was to move forward with egg donation. And so that's what we did. And actually after we picked our egg donor, I naturally got pregnant again and we miscarried. And that kind of just confirmed that, yes, we're making the right decision. Like after 3 rounds of IVF, 2 miscarriages, like this just isn't going to happen for us. And so it kind of, in a way, was a blessing to be like, yeah, we're totally making the right decision. Let's move forward. And Tim and I even had the conversation of, well, if this pregnancy is a success, do we want to still move forward? And Tim was adamant that, yes, we're moving forward with this because regardless what happens, we want to have more than one kid. And we're probably going to have to use an egg donor for, a second child if this continues to be, a problem. You're going to be older. So even with that pregnancy, we were still going to move forward with our egg donor.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I mean, you're so right though, because so many, I mean, it is that strange juxtaposition, how you can just feel all of those feelings all at once, that mourning, that sadness, but then that hope and that excitement, because, you've just had all of those moments of hope and then they're taken away, and moments of hope. And now you have this to look forward to. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. So I know Tim is joining us in a second, but I know you said at first he was very hesitant and then all of a sudden he's like, no, we're moving forward either way. What was that process like for the two of you as you guys were discerning all of that?
Well, I think after the third round of IVF didn't work, I distinctly remember we were sitting on the couch having this conversation and he was like, well, we can do another 4th round. And I was like, babe, I'm like, how bad do you really want this? Like, I just don't think this is going to happen. Like, how bad do you really want this? And he said, well, I just really wanted my baby to be half of the love of my life. And then it's going to make me cry. And then that's when I realized that I was the lucky one. And my kid gets to be the half of Tim. And I get to carry her and grow her and feed her and do all the mom things, but Tim still is totally involved because Esther's half him.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that so much. So you've now decided, all right, we're moving forward. We found our perfect donor, whatever that looks like, to you. So you're navigating that huge, just, database. Hi, Tim.
Hi.
So you're navigating that huge database. What was it for you? I know so many people when they start, first of all, it can feel so overwhelming, right? Like you've just
you've been met with all of these decisions that you have to make as you're even going down the infertility journey and roller coaster, I like to call it. And now all of a sudden we're opening the door to basically more decisions, right? We've just decided to do egg donation. And now you literally have, just our database alone is 450 plus egg donor options. What was that like as you guys are navigating that? And how did you know? You said you were like, oh no, I found her. Like I was in bed and I showed Tim and that was it. And what was that? How did you do that?
Well, we got three. I think we got three agencies from our clinic, and so I kind of did a lot of research between the clinics, and I actually really liked Egg Donor Solutions because I was looking at the agencies like I was a donor, and so I was like, if I was a donor, which agency would I want to pick? And Egg Donor Solutions was obviously the choice because I wanted to make sure that whoever was giving us this incredible gift was going to be treated fairly and right, and have the education and be guided properly, and not just feel like she was a number and we're just taking her eggs and moving on. And so when I was doing the research and looking at the different websites and stuff, Egg Donor Solutions had this whole section just for donors and podcasts and little webinars and stuff on YouTube on this is the process and this is what to expect in medicine and all these different things. And I was I just felt like in my heart Egg Donor Solutions was the right agency to go to because I felt like they were going to treat the donor the best with whoever we chose. So we did look at the other agencies just to kind of see what they had. And we just kept coming back to our donor through Egg Donor Solutions. And so I even, because it is kind of like a dating site, you go through profiles and you look at all these women and you kind of, so I would be okay, these are the top 6 or 7 or whatever I'd like, and I'd show Tim. He'd be like, I don't care, honey, just pick whoever you want, and I'm like, well, I want this to be our decision. And so I'd be like, okay, then I'd narrow it down even more. Okay, well, here's 3, which one do you like the best? And then he and of course he chose our donor. But I went even further, and with my friends and even my coworkers at work, I'd be like, hey, these are my top 5. What do you think? And they all chose our donor. And so that was just more confirmation that she's meant to be our donor.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing with my decision is that she had a little video blog, a little short video as part of her profile, and I just fell in love with her. We're both nurses, so our careers kind of aligned, animals, crafts. There's a lot of things that we kind of had very similar. I wanted someone who was kind of sort of my height, had light hair, light eyes. I wanted someone that looked similar to me, not, she just kind of checked all the boxes. And so we went with it.
I love that. I love that. So Tim, as you were navigating that, I know Amy had shared you were a little resistant at first, and then you were, I don't know, you pick whoever, whatever. And then all of a sudden it was oh, no, we're going forward no matter what. This is how we're going to do it. Well, how was that change for you? What was that like?
I don't know. I think a lot of it was just the end result is having a baby together. I didn't really, I was particular about who the donor was going to be, but not to the extreme that Amy was probably, because it's going to be happening anyways. So I know it was important to her to find someone that was similar to her in a lot of ways. And so that's what I'd go through and look through their profiles at and try to find similarities and differences and try to narrow it down that way. Yeah, she said it was going through a dating site. That's what it felt like to me.
And I think too, when we were having that conversation, when he said, I just wanted my baby to be half of the love of my life. Yeah. And then he said, and we just want to start a family and have a baby. And no matter how we come about having a child or getting a baby, you're going to be their mom, whether it's adoption or foster or egg donation. And, he's that's all that really matters is that we're going to be able to start a family and you're going to be mom. And that's just the end of it. That's just how it is.
Yeah. So. Oh, I love that. I love that. That's so beautiful. So I know for you, one of the things that was really important was to do what's called a known donor cycle. So meaning you know the name of who it is that is your donor. Why was that so important to you?
It was important to me because I wanted to give that to my children. I did not want to take that away from Esther or any future children. I want them to be able to have the right and the ability to know where their DNA comes from or who their donor is. And so that was important to me. If, Esther at 10 years old or something says, hey, who's my donor? And starts asking lots of questions and wants to see pictures or talk to her on the phone or wherever, I wanted to be able to give that to her. And that was what was really important to me. And I also feel like having a known donor makes it a lot more personable. And I think having a known donor made this whole process 100 times easier because we had an incredible donor. She was supportive the whole way, sending me a, text on the day of my transfer, like, good luck. And I'm so happy for you. And you're going to be a great mom. And I was so nervous that morning. And then when I received that text, I was like, you know what? Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I think that having a known donor made it so much more personable and like more warm and fuzzy. And she sent also after her retrieval, she sent me this like nice card with a rainbow on it and like this little bracelet that said hope on it. And I wore that every day every day until we delivered Esther. And it's so ironic because the day that we were leaving the hospital, I was taking a shower and I went to take it off and it broke. And all the beads went everywhere. And I came out of the shower and I was like, oh my God, Tim, you'll never believe what just happened. It's like a sign. It's like, we don't need this bracelet anymore. We don't need hope anymore. Like we have our child, we have Esther. And so, it's just those little things that having a known donor that makes it more personable and just made it feel more right.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Well, and like you said, it takes out that you're just a number, and and I love that you were conscientious of just this is Esther's story. This is part of her story, and like Tim said, and like you said, this doesn't take away from you being mom. It's just part of how your family grew. That's beautiful. So what I want to go back just a little bit. You had mentioned you're talking to your coworkers and you were talking to your friends and just all of that. How has that been navigating this road with that support system and explaining this to those people around you?
Well, I think it made it really easy because we were open straight from the get-go. So everyone knew we were having infertility issues. I was miscarrying. We were looking for an egg donor. So we didn't have to explain a whole lot because all of our close friends and even all of Tim's coworkers just knew the whole story from the beginning. Yeah. So we didn't even have to explain anything. They were just along for the ride and everybody was just as invested as we were. And so the support just came with that. And, and some people ask me about like, how do you feel about talking about it? And I'm like, I'm really open. And somebody asked me at the grocery store, like, oh, she's got red hair. Where'd she get that from? Did she get that from you? And I'm like, well, she's actually an egg donor, but Tim's got red in his beard, and they're just like, oh, okay. Like, when I was pregnant with Esther, the conversation would come up a lot at work with patients, oh, how far along are you? And I'd be like, oh, we tried really hard to have her. And I would just tell them and they'd be like, oh, that's such a neat story. And like, I just feel like there's no point in keeping it a secret because I don't want that weight on me. I don't want that weight on Tim. I don't want that on Esther. And if you're just open and honest and about it from the beginning, it doesn't make it not normal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Have you thought about, it sounds like you're just like, it's just part of conversation. Have you ever thought specifically about, okay, this is how we're going to explain this to Esther or what this looks like with her friends or things like that?
I started telling Esther her story when she was in the womb. I would just talk to her and tell her. And we have like 1 million children's books. I try and read them to her now, but her attention span is like this short. And so
you get through a whole book with her.
You can't get through like 3 pages with her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes I still even tell her, like if we're snuggling on the bed or something, I'll be like, did you know you're so special because X, Y, and Z, and I'll kind of tell her the story that, most people need a mommy and a daddy, but we needed a mommy, a daddy, a donor, and a doctor. So you're special because it took 4 people to make you, And so as she gets older and I get better at telling the story, it's gonna, evolve and, there'll be more detail. But it's up to her whether she wants to tell her friends or not. But everyone in her adult life that's, gonna matter will know.
I love that. I love that. Tim, how was it with you and your coworkers as you were, going through all of this? I know you both are in the medical field, so it seems like people are maybe just a little more amenable to it.
Yeah, the coworkers were all very supportive. One of my coworkers is actually going through fertility stuff around the same time that we were.
Yeah.
They ended up conceiving naturally, and I mean, everybody was just very supportive and there for us, and cover shifts. So I needed the time off to go to an appointment with Amy or whatever. It's just there was no problems. I've told patients my story, and the patients are always very supportive and always show them videos of Esther when I see them. And
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. We've all been.
I think people in general are a lot more accepting than you give them credit for. Like I haven't had one person say, "Oh my God, how could you do that?" Or like, or like, "I don't understand that," or like I've only had support and like positive comments. So I mean, I haven't run into a negative one yet. And
I love that.
I'm pretty open. If somebody asks, I just tell, if it comes up in conversation, I just tell them. And I feel like too, I met another friend on a Facebook group who's an egg donor mom who just moved here, and she's open, but she's not as open as me. Just small knit family, and and the way I kind of explained it to her, I'm like, when I tell people my story or tell people I don't know, it's almost like freeing. It's like and I was trying to explain it to her, but I'm like, it just takes the weight off. It's almost like a freedom. Like why it's just so hard to explain. It's just, for me, it's just so much easier to just tell the whole story, because
rather than trying to dance around it.
Then dance around it or eliminate things from the story, because that's not our story. We fought hard and went through a lot to get to where we are. And this is our story. And I love telling my story and bragging about it and, posting pictures and meeting people in Facebook groups and saying, "Hey, you're an egg donor mom. You want to hang out? Let's do this." And, and she was like, "Yeah, I can see that." And she's like, she said, "I'm going to try and be more open and see how I feel about it." There's, for some reason, there's women, and I think people in general feel like there's a stigma to it. And for me, the more I talk about it and the more I share my story, like that stigma just goes away.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I know you're so open. Did you have any initial fears as you started just being open about your story and having those first conversations?
No.
I love that.
I didn't.
What about you, Tim?
No, I don't think so. I think if someone didn't agree with us, it's not worth my time or effort to try to change their mind. If that's their opinion, they can have it, but it's not going to affect what we're doing with our family.
Yeah.
And those people aren't in our inner circle, because everybody in our inner circle, all of our friends that support us and coworkers, knew the whole story from the beginning. Yeah. So
I love that. I love that. So I know, okay, you found your egg donor. It was beautiful. Even after you found your egg donor, you guys still had a roller coaster, a different roller coaster that
we had a couple bumps in the road with her.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, right before she was getting ready to fly out for her transfer, she tested positive for COVID. So that was the first bump. And I'm so thankful that we put that in our legal contract with her, that she had to get a COVID test before she traveled, because we would have, I don't know if we would have been able to do it, if we would have done all the medicine and all the ultrasounds and paid for all the travel, and then she was positive, they would have canceled the cycle. I don't know if financially we would have been able to keep going.
Sure.
Well, I'm really glad that was in there, because that saved us. I mean, it broke my heart and I was very frustrated.
Yeah.
I remember getting that call and just hanging up the phone and just sitting on the floor and crying, no, because I was so ready. I wanted this so bad. It was weeks away. We're going to, find out in just, a week or two, how many embryos we had. And I was just so thrilled. So then that just delayed things a month, and we just moved forward. I'm I waited this long, what's another month? And then it was getting close to retrieval time, and she just kind of stopped, her follicles just stopped progressing for some reason.
Wow.
And so there was some talk of maybe we're going to have to cancel the cycle. And I was really upset, and I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Why? And I remember Callie was our coordinator.
Yeah.
And she was amazing. And I just remember her saying, she's really upset too. Like, I think she might have even said that she was in tears over it because felt like that she was failing and that she wanted to help us so much. And, and that meant a lot to me. And, I don't know, they were able to turn it around, long story short, and we did a retrieval and everything worked out great. She ended up, and our poor donor ended up having to stay, I think, almost a week longer than normal because it just drew out pushed back her retrieval date even longer. I think maybe it was like by 5 days or something. I don't remember, and then so her person that was with her could only stay for a certain amount of time. So then they had to fly her companion out and then fly another one in, She was so dedicated and determined to make this work, and she was starting a new job that week and, need to be back to start a new job. And then I think I remember Callie saying that, like, she made it back that night, and then the very next day she started her new job.
Oh my gosh.
And she stayed committed throughout all that and did that for us. And so that meant a lot too. But I think once again, having that known donor and exchanging, little gifts and cards and messages and things like that, really help. And having Callie as the kind of middle woman going back and forth and, just sharing little tidbits. Like, I gave her this awesome necklace and she said she's wearing it now. She says she loves it. Just hearing those little things like that, just really warms your heart.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. So many things. So yes. So you alluded to Callie, your coordinator. So, you have a coordinator throughout the process. How was that support? What?
Honestly, I got more support from Callie than I did the clinic. So we were getting more information and more quickly through her than through our clinic. So that was a huge help. It was great to have her as an advocate too, because she advocated a lot for us throughout this process. Like, when we were having problems with, her follicles not progressing and I wasn't getting the information. And I think part of it is that the clinic wasn't even really sure what was going on, but because she had a direct line to the donor, she had some, more forthcoming information and kind of was able to help give us a better picture of what was really going on. So that was a huge help.
I love, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and then again, the emotional support as well. You have a beautiful tribe of people that is surrounding you. And then you have that other person, like you said, that's that direct line that is with you right whenever you're hearing those, oh, she's positive for COVID, or, hey, we've got a bump, things like that. I'm so glad you were feeling that support. What has your contact been like with your donor since?
I probably send her way too many photos.
Esther's precious, so there are not too many photos.
So we both signed up for the donor sibling registry, and so that's the platform that we communicate through. I think like with many things, like initially I sent her a lot of messages. Like, we got married when I was like 6 months pregnant with Esther. And so, because we started the infertility process, we knew we wanted to get married, but the family, the infertility stuff and the baby stuff was more pressing, and we knew it was going to cost more money. So once that was locked down, we were like, okay, well, we should probably get married now. And so, I sent her a message. We're on the honeymoon and we're having dinner, and we were just thinking about how grateful we were for you. So I'd send her a message and tell her that, and send her pictures from our honeymoon and stuff. Then I'd send her a message for Thanksgiving, and so, just milestones. Send her pictures. She'd send messages back, and we had briefly discussed at some point we would like to meet, which I think would be really neat. I kind of want Esther to be old enough to be able to remember it. So, when we're talking about her creation story, I can be like, well, you remember on the beach when we were, XYZ, like, and you met that really nice lady? That was your donor. And she can put a face to it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely like something that I would really want to do. And the donor seemed very open to it as well and would like to meet. So.
I love that. And you've illustrated beautifully just how that relationship just, it evolves and changes, and and both ways, supporting your donor during the retrieval process, and then her sending you those well wishes, at your transfer. So that's beautiful. I love that. So what would you, going back to day one, Amy and Tim, what would you want to say to day one, Amy and Tim, knowing what you know now and being where you are now?
Do you want to go first?
I don't know. Like when we first met?
Or you mean like when we first started this journey?
This journey.
How far? The infertility journey.
I mean, it'd been nice to just skip all the rounds of IVF that were
sure.
ending up in heartbreak and just skip to the donor process. But I think just for our own sanity, we had to try fertility stuff first before we did that. Try one round of fertility and then start looking.
I think it would be
just from the economic standpoint.
I think we both moving forward with egg donation sooner, but I think at the same time there's that fine balance. Like I think we need to do at least one round of IVF just to be like, okay, it's probably not going to work, But I think probably stopping after 2 probably would have been a good sweet spot for us. But
we were getting a lot of, like the first round, we got a lot of eggs. They just were all normal.
It was frustrating because it wasn't that we weren't getting eggs or that the eggs weren't mature. We were getting plenty of eggs. They just chromosomally, all the embryos were not viable, and that's just because older, I have poor quality eggs. And so I think that we kept hoping, well, doctor says I have ovaries like a 30-year-old. This can't happen if we just keep trying and keep trying. But to answer your question, like what would I tell Amy, like in the very beginning of this, is that it's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay, and you want to be a mom, and there's lots of ways to be a mom, and if you want to be a mom, you're gonna be a mom.
Yes. You shared that it in your beautiful letter. You had shared you had made that sign. Our baby will come to us at the right time, in exactly the right way. Be strong, be brave, be fearless. You are never alone. And I love those words for anybody that's going through this process. I mean, to have that constant reminder, because, it is, okay, let's just try this one more time. Let's just try, try this one more time. And that idea of keep going, but maybe keep going in a different way. And what does that look like? And how do you discern that process?
Yeah. And that helped a lot. Just seeing those words and reading that and knowing our baby will come to us in the right way and the right time. And she did.
And she did. And Esther's here. Yeah. Oh, I love that. So for any potential intended parents that are discerning if this is their best next step, what advice would you want to give them?
I think staying in tune with what the end game is. Like it all can seem overwhelming, and then when you throw in egg donor, I think that you get a lot of static and cluster around, oh my gosh, it's an egg donor, it's not my DNA, and how are we going to tell people, and how are we going to navigate this, and really the big picture, none of that matters. None of it matters. Once you get that positive pregnancy test, and your belly as big as a house, and you're walking around and and everyone says how cute you are being pregnant, and then you actually give birth and you're holding this baby that's yours. That's the end game. That's what's important. Yeah. All the other stuff is nothing compared to what you get. The end result of being a mother, and families and mothers and women and couples go through this because that's what they want more than anything, is to have a family, and you could have that through egg donation. And I think you need, when you're going through this process and you get overwhelmed or get anxiety about it, that's what you need to remember, that if you want to have a family, if you want to be a mother, you can do it. Just because you can't do it with your own eggs or whatever the reason is, it's not the end.
I love that. What about you, Tim?
Quiet Tim.
Yeah. I agree with Amy. I think if you really want to have a baby, there's multiple ways of doing it, and just embracing it. I've talked to parents that have adopted kids, and they say it's the best thing they've ever done because they have children now.
Yeah.
And so I think look at the end result of having a baby. It's growing that family and having a family you always wanted is the important part. The way you get there, there's different roads, and I don't think in the end, it doesn't really matter. It's still your child.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love that. So Esther's here. Yay. Esther's a little over a year at the time of this recording, but even Esther getting here was still more, just ups and downs and fun. Can you tell our listeners a little more about her story?
Well, little Miss Esther. I mean, like about the pregnancy and all
that? Yeah.
So it was a fairly easy pregnancy. I didn't have morning sickness. I loved being pregnant. Like I said, we got married when I was 6 months pregnant. We
Love that.
did a lot of that. We did actually a lot of travel when I was pregnant. The pregnancy was fairly easy. As we got closer to the due date, my blood pressure did start to climb a little bit. And I was pushing back with the doctors all the time. I'm like, no, she's not ready. She's not ready. She's fine. Because I was borderline. Like, it wasn't. They're like, well, we can induce you. And I'm like, no. Just wait. well, how about we schedule? Like, I kept bargaining with them. They're like, well, how about we schedule an induction in the next 2 weeks? And I'm like, okay. So I picked like the very last day.
Sure.
But ultimately, like, she ended up coming like only a week and a half early.
Yeah.
And even the delivery was just, I don't know. It was like surreal. It was like a party in there. Like, I remember I'm like in there pushing, and like Tim and the doula and the doctor and the nurse, they're sitting there powwowing and talking. I'm like, you guys, am I having a contraction? I can't tell. Because everyone was just having a good time. And I think even the nurse was like, man, this is like a party. This is fun. And then everyone in there knew the story. It was a very happy moment.
It went very well.
The delivery went really well. And I remember, after Esther came out and she was in the warmer and they were doing whatever they need to do to kind of like get me ready to like move on to the next stage. I said, I see why people have 10 kids now. That was awesome. I want to do this again. It might have been all the hormones and the oxytocin. I don't know. But
yeah, there you go.
I knew I was like, okay, I'm ready. I can do this again. Like, this is awesome.
Oh my God.
Again.
I love
and then
that.
Esther came, and we've done a lot of travel with Esther too. She was like 3 months.
We went down to Texas.
We did a road trip down to Texas.
Oh my gosh. Little
global
baby.
8 months. She did her first flight to Vermont. In November, we took her to Hawaii. She's been camping a couple times. We've done, weekend road trips here and there.
Adventure baby.
She's a very good traveler, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love it. That's amazing.
She's very social. Everybody loves her. She's like, we take her to the daycare at the gym, and she's like the most popular baby. Everyone's like, hi, Esther. I'm like, I don't even know who you are, but everybody knows who Esther is.
Everyone knows Esther. Oh my gosh. I love it. Yes, absolutely. So at any point in time, I mean, after all that it took to get to where you were, I know you said the pregnancy was, it was easy as far like you were traveling and just enjoying being pregnant. Did you ever have any fear, hesitation, just, as you were navigating all of that?
I think like with most mothers, you worry about like, what if my baby doesn't like me, or what if, we have difficulty bonding. So one of the things that I knew very early on, breastfeeding was going to be very important to me, because I felt like I wanted that and needed that to have that extra connection. And that all worked out fine too. That went smoothly as well.
I think we're always nervous going to the ultrasounds too. Is everything going to be okay? Is there something that we're worried about?
Yeah, that's true too. Every time, that is true. Actually, the early pregnancy, there were some bumps in the road. When we were still with the infertility clinic, Esther's HCGs were extremely low initially. And they said, well, there's probably only like a 6% chance that this is going to be a viable pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
And so that was heartbreaking to hear that. And then we went in for our 6-week ultrasound, and there she was with a heartbeat. And we were leaving. Of course, I cried when I was there. And then when we were driving home, we were in the car and I was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of her. I love her so much already.
Aww.
Like I just saw her and like, it didn't matter. She was an egg donor baby. She was my baby. And I was like instantly madly in love with this like little bean on a screen that you know, and I was like, I'm just so proud of her. And I look over at Tim, you know, quiet, like Tim over here. And he like had tears in his eyes. And and that was a moment. And then every significant ultrasound after that, every ultrasound after that, I'd tear up and cry. But even after that, I think when we were coming back from our trip from San Diego, I started to spot. And I think that was around 8 weeks, maybe 8 or 9. And I was like, yep, that's it. We're miscarrying. Like, I just do. I'm like, yeah, like this is definitely a miscarriage. Like,
oh,
you know,
wow.
like, I think we were hopeful, but we were also very realistic, you know, with the process.
Cautiously hopeful. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, well, I'm spotting, I'm bleeding. This is a miscarriage. And so they brought me in for an ultrasound right away, and she was still there, and her little head was moving, and it was like a subchorionic hemorrhage, which is very common with like IVF. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we just, you know, kind of like skated through this, like, you know, the complications that we had with like the egg donor getting COVID and almost canceling the cycle, and then the HCGs being so low, and then, you know, having bleeding in early pregnancy. I just couldn't believe that. Like, we were lucky enough that we like made it through all that, and she's like this, you know, 14-month-old child running around getting into absolutely everything.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it just shows that, you know, there is still a road to go on, and it is so important to have that support system and, you know, just all of those things, but at least having those, you know, those little moments, like you said, that bracelet and, you know, just those little things throughout that kind of just keep you going. Oh my gosh, I love it. So, okay. Yes. Esther's here, and she is just perfect and precious and pure sugar. And I like cannot stand it. She's so sweet and cute. Oh my gosh. How did you, every moment post-delivery, right, is like, yeah, I'm going to have 10 more of these. And then you're celebrating those big milestone moments and, you know, all of those things. How was that first Mother's Day?
What did we do on your first Mother's
Day? We went to the aquarium.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we went to the aquarium. Yeah, that was kind of surreal. Like
well, I had to work that day too, remember?
Yeah. We ended up going to the aquarium and like doing family things, and you know, I think I got teary-eyed that day, but like I still get teary-eyed when I do things. Like when I met my friend to go to the zoo like this summer, and I was like unloading her from the car and putting her in the stroller to go to the zoo, and I like teared up and like started crying. I'm like, I can't believe I'm taking my daughter to the zoo. Like it just, you know, yeah. I still that first year it was very surreal. Like I almost felt like she was borrowed or something, because we tried so hard to get there. And so I'd have moments like that where I was like, oh my gosh, this is real. Like I'm taking my daughter to the zoo. Holy crap. You know, and then we went to go see Santa, and I put her in Santa's lap, and I started crying because I'm like, I can't believe I'm putting my daughter on Santa's lap. And
she was crying.
Not like Santa.
I mean, she's over a year old, and I took her to her first story time at the library, and I got all choked up. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot cry. These people are going to think I'm crazy. I still have those moments where I'm like, I cannot believe that this is us. Like, this is our daughter. This is our lives. And we made it this far.
Yeah.
Still, it's been 14 months since she was born, and I still am just in awe of everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And your story's still not over. I know you guys have a transfer coming up. And so sending all of the baby dust and sticky thoughts and happy vibes and, you know, just all of the things. So you guys, again, I just so appreciate you being so vocal about your story, because, you know, it can be scary for some as they, you know, are going down this road, and, you know, having people like you, you know, being able to be a support to those and being vulnerable and sharing your story that is still continuing to unfold. And, you know, we'll keep going along with, you know, Esther. My final question to you, and it's a fun question. For anyone who knows me, they know that I have a very codependent relationship with my coffee. So to ask you, what filled your cup this morning? Literally or figuratively, what was the thing that filled your cup?
I went to the gym today for the first
Yeah, girl.
time since Esther was born.
Let's go.
And I took and also this morning was the first day of my meds for my transfer. So that's what filled my cup this morning.
That's big stuff. Yes. Oh, happy start of meds. Yay.
So that's what filled my cup this morning. Tim's a big coffee drinker too, so he had lots of coffee.
Nice. There you go. Yeah, I have a Keurig to
around the crib in the morning. He's always wonderful. Like she's always standing there smiling and excited to see you. Like even when you drop her off at the gym at daycare, she always smiles when she goes in there, and then she sees you when you go pick her up, and she's smiling, running right at you.
She's a very, very happy baby, and everyone tells us that. I'm like, our whole baby's like this. No, she's just full of smiles, and so hopefully we'll be as lucky with our second.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh gosh. Well, again, you guys, thank you so much for sharing that story. And seriously, all the best wishes for, just everything going forward. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Me, You, and Who podcast. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed our discussion today. As we wrap, we would like to remind you of some of the ways to stay connected with us and be part of the Me, You, and Who podcast community. Firstly, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode and can stay up to date with our latest content. But that's not all. We also have an exciting YouTube channel where we share some bonus content, behind the scenes glimpses, and video versions of our episodes. Head over to your YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button there as well. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when the new episodes go live. For more exclusive updates, engaging discussions, and a chance to connect with fellow listeners, be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Egg Donor and at Surrogate Solutions. As a friendly reminder, the podcast is made possible by Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions. If you're interested in creating a happy family, visit www.createahappyfamily.com to learn more information. Again, thank you for being part of the Me, You, and Who community. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and join us next time as we share journeys of creating happy families.